click the links, join channel, become a member, check out the various other links. So a quick little look at the Woman King, which you can watch in various places around the net if you're curious. You probably there's no need to watch it unless you want to see something that is not a movie so much as it is a clear case. In fact, yeah, maybe it is a good idea to watch it to kind of, well, first look up the history of the kingdom. It's loosely, very, very loosely based on. In fact, not really. It's set in the continent of Africa, and it has females. That's the kind of the connection with the original story, and that's about it. I mean, anything important to the original heart of the story has been changed because Hollywood. So this isn't a movie so much as it is 2 hours of just literal propaganda. You can watch for yourself. Just read a little bit of the history first, as we'll go into in 1 second. So this is IMDb, and they list the movie as 59%, out of 100. I guess that's okay. I mean, I watched the movie. Everything looks like the production quality is fine. $50 million. It looks good. Great settings, great costumes, all that kind of stuff. And it would be something else if you didn't know the history of the story, which is like very clearly out there for everyone and anyone. And it's like the history is like there's no hiding it. You can't do this kind of propaganda and think you're going to get away with it. It's like, yeah, I mean, yes, they can when they sort of control the narrative. They literally are doing this kind of stuff. So that was 59% on IMDb, and I only knew to go there because I was reading. This is Rotten Tomatoes, reading the reviews here, and the guy in the user reviews was explaining. He goes, yeah, people are giving this perfect 10s. That's why it's got 99%. He goes, it's all fake. You can watch the movie for yourself, and it's like you may love it and may hate it, but it's not there's no way you're giving it like a super high score. It's not one of the best movies of all times, which is what these scores are giving it. Rotten Tomatoes is completely subverted. It's complete garbage. He goes, this is a woke Hollywood movie. It's going to get high scores, and this is 94 by the reviewers themselves and almost 100 by the audience. No, there's no way. I mean, it's like they really should have dialed that back. It's like, no, these Rotten Tomatoes is like, by now you got to know they've gotten away from organic reviews. This is friggin' bizarre. The 59% on IMDb, yeah, that's more accurate. I mean, it does a lot of things well. It's just, I'm saying you can't give this like an 8, 9, or 10 if you know the history of the story. You can't give something an almost perfect score when it's like, oh, it's based on this kingdom. It's like, no, it's not, as we'll go into in a second. So no, a 90% plus score, that's insane. So keep in mind, Little Woman King trivia, Africa traded the human cargo trade, people, before any contact with Europe or even their neighbors to the north at all. They traded them internally as sex partners without consent, sort of thing, and also as unpaid employees. That went on in Africa and the Middle East, to be fair, also before any contact with Europe. It went on through their contact with Europe, and then when Europe decided enough was enough, and they said, we're stopping this, they went to war with the French and the English, who told them they had to stop it. They had to stop the trade. They went to war, this tribe of the Dahomey and the various other African tribes, to continue trading people because it was so lucrative. So that's once you know the history of that, it's like, well, that kind of changes the everyone's perspective on this situation, which is great. Like, I'm glad a movie like this gets made because it gives people an opportunity to say, yeah, you really want to open this can of worms. It's like, okay, let's go for it. So the film is loosely based on this kingdom, Dahomey. It's existed, and it can coincide with the growth of the Atlantic trade. It became known as a major supplier because the Europeans, the folks, or at least the non-Africans, because it wasn't just Europeans, it was a bunch of other people I probably can't mention on Google too, didn't just go walk their way. Like, if you've ever read Roots, which is a fictional book based on just plagiarized. In fact, he was sued for plagiarism based on another earlier book. They didn't just go walking through Africa to pick people up, because they would have just been wiped out. That's insane. So this Dahomey kingdom was a major supplier of workers both within and without Africa. It organized constantly for warfare. It captured men, women, and children during wars and raids against their neighbors. So kind of their traders and trait or ors, so to speak, against people who look like them and probably were pretty genetically similar to them. Their own people is what I'm trying to say. And they sold them to the Atlantic trade in exchange for liberty devices, clothing, fabrics, shells, tobaccos, pipes, and booze. Traded humans for that. Which, you know, hey, at the time, that was just what people did. Fair enough. Other remaining captives became unpaid workers for their tribe themselves, where they worked the fields and were routinely mass deleted in large-scale human sacrifices during the festival celebrations, known as the annual customs of Dahomey. So that's interesting. That's kind of part of the backstory. So in this film, very loosely based. You mean it was set in Africa? Yeah, that's about the extent of it. Like, I mean, it's just as ridiculous as it sounds. So the main characters are talking about the immorality of selling their own people to other groups and suggests trading in oil and palm oil instead. While this conversation is very fictional, yeah, they traded a lot of things, but in fact they actually went to war with the British and the French, I think, who wanted to stop the trade of humans. That's how much they like trading people. They went to war so that in the movie doesn't quite make sense because they were willing to die to continue trading other human beings. They did not want to trade oils or anything else. They wanted to trade people because it was so lucrative. I mean, if you have an army and like life is cheap, it's like, well, that's a better trade for you. It's like that's just you know, accepted at the time. Even after the Europeans stopped it, it was too brutal for them. The Dahomey wanted to continue trading, which is interesting. So the fictional white Portuguese, Portuguese are Portuguese, they're not white. I mean, they are what they are. It's like, that's why I don't use those words, colors, to describe people. They're Portuguese, they're not described as a color. But they put that there for a reason. They call it that for a reason. Because it's like Portuguese are what they are. You know what I'm saying? They're not like the rest of European people, Northern European people. It's not good or bad. It's just they're Mediterranean people are different. But the reason this person writes, like, who's that guy that oh god, that Mexican guy who got in I forget the guy's name. He got in a battle with some guy outside of like a 7-Eleven. The guy attacked him, and the guy's like half Mexican, half Jewish, and so the media reported it as like a white Spanish, and they lightened his photograph, and I forget the guy's name, but you look at his picture, you're like, oh, Zimmerman. You look at his picture, like, yeah, he's not white. Why would you call him white? Because it's the media. That's why they do it here. It's like Spanish are what they are. Portuguese are what they are. They're not to call them this. It's like it's for a narrative. It's because they want you to think that the fair-skinned people are bad. Yeah, a lot of people traded humans. So this is a fictional add-in to the story, possibly loosely inspired. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with reality because they were very dedicated to fighting other tribes in Africa. In fact, so they could continue to capture and enslave men, women, and children, and to sell them for goods, and then also, human sacrifice. There was that too. And as the last line says, none of this is accurately depicted in the film. So hey, I'm glad they made the movie because it's so freaking ridiculous. I mean, this stuff is out there. It's just so. Like it's weird how people don't know the true history of the Arab and African and other groups that were working in those regions at the time. It's weird how that doesn't get out. It doesn't get talked about, and it's like there's overwhelming wars that were fought to stop the Africans and Arab slave trade. by the Europeans who wanted to stop it. But like, obviously that narrative doesn't get out there, and I think you know why. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.